Welcome to the December Circle of Friends show. Amy Whitney here with my very special guest, Ruchira Agrawal. Ruchira is joining me from her office in Vancouver. Ruchira is a personal development coach, author, and the CEO of Innerveda Communications. Ruchira works with her clients, helping them to discover their life's work and purpose, to trust their intuition, follow healthy, joy-producing actions to create the career and therefore the life of their dreams. When I look at Ruchira's work, I think to myself, here is someone who knows magic. She helps transform dreams to reality. Ruchira, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, I was looking at your website a few weeks ago, and I was reading the about you section, really, and you speak on there about being catapulted into a sort of chaos. Now, are you okay with sharing with the audience a little bit about that period of your life?
Sure, absolutely. It's taken me a little while to be okay, and talking about it, but I think it's important for me to, share my story and give a little background so that hopefully, others maybe who are going through similar things or in similar situations can probably, take some inspiration from that. So, yeah, absolutely.
So the chaos, was it a result of a career change, I'm assuming?
No, actually, a bunch of different things. I think what I'm going to do is probably start from, the beginning. I think it was in my late teens, probably I was 18, 19 years old, and that was the time when I found myself feeling that I was a little bit different than the people around me. And it was, I guess, more in the sense of the way people process their thoughts, their attitude towards the world, and, life in general, and what's possible and what's not possible. So that's my first memory. And then when I was 23, 24 years old, is my second memory of one day just out of the blue questioning what the meaning of life is, why does everyone come here on earth? And I distinctly remember thinking to myself, or do people just come here to be born and then go to school, college, get a job, get married, have kids, grow old, and die? And I just couldn't make sense of, what that, really meant. Not that those things weren't important, but I think there was a part of me that felt that there was more to life, that there was a missing piece. But, of course, I couldn't really share this with anybody. And when I looked around me, yes, of course, that's pretty much, what you did. But internally, I just kept feeling that there was, something, there was a missing piece. But not being able to make any sense of, what this really meant, I just tried to push this thought aside and really went on with my life. And then it was around, I think I was around 28, 29, it was around 1998. That I fell ill, and I was on a bed rest for almost 3 months, heavily, sedated, knocked out due to an infection. And it took me about 6 to 8 months to fully recover and be on my, feet again and be well again. But during that, 3 months of bed rest that I went through, I think the best way to put it across is some sort of like an internal shift happened, because once I came out of that experience, I noticed that I was a little bit more in tune, or a little bit more sensitive to things around me. And then I think barely a year into it, the next, event that happened in my life was basically had to do with a loss, a personal loss of a relationship that, really kind of jolted me to a point where I lost a little bit of self-confidence, and I think it also made me question my own ability to read situations and other people. And so that was a traumatic time and a chaotic time. And as I was sort of grappling with the finding peace and making sense of things, my professional and my financial stability also got affected due to the economic recession of 2002. And where I lost my job because the company that I was working with folded. So I was kind of, being affected in all different areas all at once. So I call it like the 4 years that really changed my life, And I think that was a pivotal moment in my life because I knew that I needed to stop and needed to find some answers. I felt very strongly that, something was shifting, something wasn't working. Maybe it was something that I wasn't doing right, or, that I needed to carve out maybe a new path, if you will, because the old life as I had known, was going away. So that's what, I think, pushed me in the direction to search for my own answers and really what I wanted to do with my life, not just find another job. I had a successful career at that point, but it was a good job. It wasn't a great job. And so I was looking for fulfillment, on a professional level and on a personal level, and really just, getting a sense of direction. And so that's what that chaos is all about. And really, I think the point that allowed me to really start my journey, this new journey, and find my future path.
Amazing. So a lot of times people have the chaos in one area of their life, but they still, they can hide out in the other sort of 4 or 5 areas. But to have all of your areas at once sort of say, okay, Ruchira, you need to pay attention, you need to shift something, right? That must have been, it must have been a heart-wrenching experience, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty chaotic, and yeah, exactly. Before that, even in my 20s, something didn't work out in one area, but then you have your other area working well that you can kind of, go to, but this was something, and that's what I think made me really kind of get this strong sense that, okay, I just can't do that anymore. This is happening for a reason, and I really need to, figure this out rather than, not figure it out and kind of let life, happen and then go on from one experience to the next. And I think, that's where it all started.
And that was the beginning of your life as an entrepreneur, is that correct?
No, starting my business came a little bit later on, but that was really the point when I actually started to look for my mission in life and, the answers to really what I was truly here to do. And I had taken up another job, and that sort of alleviated, some of the financial pressures, but I held on to the idea of, seeking my fulfilling work. And by then, I had also discovered my gift of intuition, and also had realized that I was really passionate about personal development. And but the problem was that all this was so brand new to me. So, and I had absolutely no idea. So I needed to explore these areas, further. And so I, started taking classes. And I remember, my first class was on meditation. And that really, sort of opened the doors for me. And I researched and I read all the books that I could find on personal growth and self-help. And as my own journey continued, I realized that, people started coming to me on their own for intuitive coaching. They needed clarity and answers, and so I decided to go along with it. And I worked with them in the area of life transformation. And as I worked with them, I also got certified in hypnotherapy, And time went on. And as, one day, it was late 2008, and I was, starting to feel that my work, needed to evolve. And I was interested in, really combining my extensive corporate work experience along, with all this new knowledge that I had gathered over time, working with people for over, 7 years. And the timing seemed to be right, and everything else, seemed to be aligned well. And pretty much that is how my business was born. And, I guess you could say I became a full-time entrepreneur.
That's really, really an amazing journey, and I'm impressed that it was a 7-year transformation for you. For some reason, I thought you went through the chaos, and then voila, your business, your innovative business was started at that point. So it's beautiful that you built the layers, and then you released your knowledge once you got to that level. So I quite like that aspect.
Yeah, I think sometimes, life is like that. I mean, many times, and now, when I'm doing this work, I realize, I come across people and they think that, it's like this on and off switch, that you turn on and suddenly, everything just kind of changes, and maybe sometimes it does, but, oftentimes you just have to navigate, based on your circumstances, what's possible, what's not possible. But then if you hold on to your dream, and that dream is important and your mission is important to you, then, and you set in the motion, then, you can slowly work towards until you get to a place where, everything is aligned. So really pursuing your passion is not like throwing everything away and then, not being responsible, but really taking everything into account, planning, and then when the time is right, then you just go for it.
That is so vital to hear. I think that sentence, those sentences are completely so beautiful, because now with so many people teaching manifestation and just think it and it happens, I can't tell you the number of people I've met who take a jump in the deep end and then go, but I thought if I was a good person, or I thought if I was manifesting, it would all work out. So being a personal development coach, and when working a lot with people in their careers, what's a common sort of, I don't want to use the word stereotypical, but do you know what I mean? Like a client that comes to you, is there a lot of dissatisfaction with jobs out there, or is it, what are you seeing come through your doors?
Yeah, I think most people, now so more than ever, although, I think if you compare the number of people that are underemployed, they may be working, but, they're not really honoring their experience and their education. They just have taken up a job because they had to, because they needed the money, and or, people who are in jobs, even though they may be, qualified to do it, but the happiness levels or the fulfillment or the satisfaction level, I think the percentage of people that are dissatisfied with the work that they do is definitely far greater than the number of people, that find fulfillment, in their work. In fact, I think just the other day, I think I was reading a survey published on New York Post, and where it said that 45% or 46% of people said that they were, just satisfied with their job. So, kind of made me think, 45% people think that they're just satisfied. They're not excited. They're not, exhilarated, enthusiastic. They're just barely satisfied. So even finding that basic, satisfaction is just comes up to 45%. So there is still that, 55% of people that are in the category that they're just not happy.
And it's insanity because we're working, longer hours, a lot of people for less money. And to hear that statistic is, it's sad, frankly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, one thing that I've realized is that, work is an activity, right, that we all involve in and do every day and spend so many hours and for so many years. I mean, right from our 20s to, the time we retire or beyond, you're working. And I think it's a really important component if you do decide to be happy in your life, to not only do other things, but I think pursuing work that really fulfills you is an important component of inviting more happiness in your life. I think it improves the quality of your well-being, your life. And I think when you're involved in a work that a type of job that really doesn't fulfill you, then yes, it may be bringing in the money that you need, but I think over time, it diminishes the quality of your life. And all the time you hear about people who are burned out, but they don't switch or they don't do anything else, even though the desire may be there, but maybe they don't know what to do. And, you hear of people who affect, jobs that are, either boring or they, don't feel a connection with, starts to, impact their health, their moods, their personal relationships, they're irritated, they're frustrated, and all that, has an impact on a person's well-being. So for me, I think just from my own experience, I know when I was making all these changes in my life, personally and professionally, I think my guiding force was that I, made a conscious decision that I wanted, happiness in my life, and that all my actions are going to be geared towards happiness. So if something doesn't make me happy, then, maybe it's a little bit of a selfish attitude, but in a healthy way, that I'm just not going to do it. And I think somehow, energetically, kind of thinking that way, just opened the doors to me really ultimately, finding my career. So that's what I would, tell people really is that, they have to make happiness their priority and really weigh in, is it worth it or is it not worth it?
I love that. When you speak, do you work with teens? Is this what the issue is, that our children or our teens are, being forced to make a career selection when they don't even know themselves? Is that what the root of the problem is, or is that, generalizing too much?
I think, although I work usually with people who are midlife, in the midst of career, change and transition, but I think, if you go back, and I think the problem starts when we are picking our first careers, because it's based on, how do we pick our first careers? Sometimes, as kids, maybe when we're 5, 6 years old, maybe some of us have a clear idea of who we want to be. And then we hold on to that dream and we go and pursue that, and we're supported by our, family. But, there are many people who don't know, what they want to become or who they want to be. And, they go to, school and colleges, and how do they pick their first careers? It's usually based on, factors such as what's in demand, or what your parents would like you to become, or what will bring you the most money, So the whole thing of honoring really yourself, or knowing who you are, what your passions are, I think the emphasis on that part is less. And then, you pick your, you get your education and your degrees and things like that, and you start on that path, and then, you're in your 30s and 40s, and then, of course you evolve and change as human beings as well. So maybe what interested you, 10 years ago doesn't do that anymore in your 30s and 40s. But being on a wrong career path, and then, you start questioning yourself, but you can't leave because then you have responsibilities, or you feel, that it's too late for you, or you don't want to leave the familiar because you've spent, the last 20 years, 30 years working in a certain career field, and to step into or to go out of your comfort zone and look for a second, career is, it's difficult and it's uncomfortable. So, yeah, I would say, a lot of it would, I think an easier way would be, to solve this, if you will, if this was a problem, that, I think the way we attempt our first careers, and if we focused at that point on really, finding either what our mission is, and if not, really looking at what our passions are and approaching the careers in that way and kind of eliminating all these external, things, then I think maybe that will eventually lead to a, more healthier, happier work experience.
I love it. And when you're speaking about that, I really do not recall as a teenager anyone asking me, when they say, oh, what are you going to be when you grow up? I don't remember anyone saying, oh, what brings you joy? What makes you happy? And that shift needs to occur, doesn't it? And I really love, the way that you see people do hit that point where it's time to transition or change. And you're there to take them through it in an intellectual, well thought out way, rather than the classic nervous breakdown, right? I love that role that you have. Now, you have a fabulous ebook, and let me see, it's called Before You Launch Your Business, How to Decide If Being an Entrepreneur is for You. Now, can you tell the audience a little bit about what was the motivation for writing that book?
Yes, absolutely. I actually also have a coaching program for women. It's called the Purpose Rich Women's Business Program, and it helps any aspiring creative or social business person or an entrepreneur to help them, get set up and get established. And as I was coaching, I often used to come across people who may have started their business, but probably after the fact realize, what being in business for yourself really entails. And many times, their personalities weren't just really cut out for, the business. And it doesn't mean that they didn't have the intelligence or the smarts to run their business, but, you need a lot of different things to, make it, especially in the first few years in the business when you're pretty much like, eating, sleeping, breathing, your business, because you're trying to bring in, sales, get your business up and running, and you're wearing many different hats. You don't have a lot of resources financially. If you're, let's say putting in your money, if you're not, taking a loan or getting your funding and whatnot. And so many times, it's a hectic, pace, which is very different than, let's say when you are, working a job where you have a steady paycheck coming in. And so I used to, come across people who would really, on the verge of giving up, their business and their dream because they couldn't handle the pressures. And so I decided to write this ebook, to really give an insight into, people as to, if this is the career path that you do want to choose, then, what is it that you need to know ahead of time and prepare and plan ahead of time and, and determine, whether you're really cut out for it or not. And then if you're not, then what can you do, to make this happen for yourself and be better prepared. So that's why I wrote this book.
It's I love it. It's fabulous. I think it's such a great idea because you always have the romantic notions of a 10-year-old business, but the initial startup of a business is it's just pure effort, constant.
Yeah, yes, for sure. I think I call it like the entrepreneurial glamour. And when we think about owning a business or being in business, then we think about the flexibility that it would bring, and the you can do whatever you want to. You don't have a boss sitting on your head. Nobody to answer to, and the earning potential and things like that. But I think what people forget is what happens before you get to that point. Let's say
who wants to think about that? That's not going to
happen overnight for sure, if it does happen. And so there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that really goes into this, and I think I just hope that this book is going to present like a realistic point of view to people and stepping into self-employment. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you run or what scale, or whether it's just a small business or you want to take it make it a little bit larger. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think the starting point of self-employment is pretty much the same for all businesses.
Absolutely. Now, in February 2012, you've got some exciting things happening. You've got 2 new group teleseminars being launched. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, well, next year in 2012, we will be offering our existing one-on-one coaching programs in a group setting in form of teleseminars and e-courses. And I have gone ahead and posted some of the details on our website and our blog already. So if anybody wanted to head on over there and have a look at what the programs are about, all the necessary information is up there. Now, our first program is essentially a career transformation and a reinvention program. It's called Discover Your Happy Work. And this program is primarily for anybody who is at a career crossroads and is unsure of what kind of work to pursue next. Let's say if they're unemployed, or maybe they're unhappy, with the kind of work that they're doing currently, or maybe they took a break and they're thinking about re-entering the workforce, but they don't know, what kind of work to pursue and what their authentic right work is. So this program is basically going to be able to help them identify that, as well as, give them a sense of, direction. And also what this program will be doing is that it will help people connect with their deeper self, really. So, they can really start creating the process of change from, the inside. And I really feel that changes that are done from, deep within are longer lasting, in the long run, versus, any change that is sort of done just on the surface level. So that is one of our programs. And then the other program that I, briefly touched upon a little while ago is a business program. It's called the Purpose Rich Women's Business Program. And this course is for anybody, let's say who has a social mission or maybe a personal purpose in life, and they need they want to find out how to express that, or maybe they have a creative, conscious idea and they need help in translating that into a small business. So this program will basically be, helping people in doing so. And I also, wanted to mention that both our programs are comprehensive, and they're designed in a way that they have a wonderful, blend of all the practical insights, as along with, they have a holistic sort of an approach to them. So, for example, people will learn not only the logistics and the involved and the practical aspects of, transforming their career and setting up their business, but what they will also be doing is that they would be working on developing their own intuition and learning how to use their intuition, in their careers and their business. They will be working through their fears and mindset blocks, that often stops people from sort of going after their dreams. They will also be learning about law of attraction and how to really use it and activate it, in their careers and their, for work purposes and even in their life for that matter. So really these programs are about, connecting with their inner voice, finding their inner voice and stepping into, coming from a place of strength and stepping into a leadership position, and taking charge of their, careers and their businesses. So I've gone ahead and posted, all the schedules and stuff on our website. So anybody wanted to, go over there and get, learn more about these programs, absolutely everything is on there.
These sound like they're going to save so many people so much time and so much money. Like it's you just put everything together for them, all the parts. A creative person who has business ideas flowing left, right, and center, but learning how to market, how to do the administration, how to do the books, all those sorts of things. I mean, what a gift to have a one-stop shop to learn all those skills. That's fabulous.
That's one thing that's, there's so many people, they have so many different gifts, but they have all these gifts and they have all these ideas, but they don't have the business knowledge, or they don't know how to bring it out into the world or share it with the world. So my hope is that, with this, with the work that I'm doing or these programs that I'm offering is that I help them to really bring it out with the world and share it with the world, and that benefits, so many other people. So yeah, I really hope to be doing that.
Congratulations. Now, I was looking through your blog on innovator.com, and I've noticed that you're interviewing leading personal growth and career experts. And this is going to be such a great collection of knowledge and inspiration. Is that the point of promoting these other people in pretty much your same field, really? Is it because you're just spreading the inspiration? Is that the motivation for it?
Yes, that's definitely part of it, inspiration for sure, and also knowledge, and their wisdom for sure, what their experiences are, and what they are doing, and let's say if they're authors, if they've written books, then, I hope to be able to talk to them about that, and, basically what, how they're helping other people, what their experiences are. If they are, in different professions, then I hope to talk to them about their, like what does their work really entail, and, so that I can, present a glimpse to others, let's say, who are planning to enter a certain field, and they don't know, they know I want to be a psychologist, but they don't know what does a life of a psychologist entail. So an insider's look into that profession as well. So more on the personal growth, more on the professional development side. And again, the whole idea is to, basically help people really find their meaning and happiness in the process.
It's a really beautiful gift. I enjoyed reading the two that I read. It was I think that's a really lovely thing you're doing there. Now on the note of inspiration, this is a question I ask everyone. So if it seems a little bit out there, sorry about that. But what's been your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration. Wow, yeah.
Changing gears.
Think about it. Well, I think life in itself. I don't know if it's a person. I mean, I think there are many people, whose work has inspired me, Jim Rohn, Dale Carnegie. I mean, there's so many different, Marianne Williamson. So there's so many people doing beautiful work and sharing their, again, their talents and their gifts and their wisdom. And I think there's a lot to learn from everybody. So I don't know if there's like one particular person that really stands out for me. But I think my biggest inspiration just comes from life in itself. Living, life teaches us so many different things. I think if we keep our mindset open and allow ourselves to kind of freely flow and not resist, the changes and everything. I think that in itself is, biggest teacher.
I love it. And your final words of wisdom today?
My final words of wisdom is to really, be who you are, is to really, be authentic. Be authentic. Don't be afraid to express who you are, to speak your truth. Don't get caught up in the shouldn'ts and the can'ts. Don't put limitations, self-imposed limitations on yourself, and just be free and, choose happiness and allow yourself to, come out in the world and express and share who you are.
That's beautiful. On that note, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate it.